I hadn't had anything to drink in like maybe 2 days. And I was sitting at home alone in my apartment, and I realized I was not going to be able to not drink if I stayed there that night. I was starting to become haunted by the things inside me that I had been unwilling to feel. And I'd been using alcohol to squash that. So I realized I had to do something. Now, I didn't have any experience with AA or 12-step programs, but I'm smart. I'm techie. I fired up my laptop and I Googled AA meetings near me. I picked the first one at the top of the list, got the address, got in my car, and drove 20 minutes to go to this meeting, which was unnecessary because I lived in Los Angeles at the time. I probably could have walked a few blocks and found one, but I was so dingy and out of it and just full of anxiety. I just needed to, that one go, got in my car. And I remember parking outside of this church, and the amount of fear I felt was unreal. I think to this day, it's one of the bravest things I've ever done to get out of my car and walk up those steps and into that church and into that first AA meeting on my own. I didn't know what to expect, and I did not want to talk to anybody. I was just this ball of pain. And if anybody poked at me even a little bit or brushed up against me or asked me an innocent question, I knew I was going to burst into tears. And I really didn't want to do that in front of strangers. Vulnerability was very hard for me at that point. And I think when I walked in, everybody there kind of felt it. Nobody really talked to me. I saw a chair available directly in front of me, and I zipped in and I sat down. And the setup was, it was all these tables put in a circle. So everybody was like in a circle. And the only person I really remember clearly was the woman who was sitting right next to me on my left. And she kind of looked at me sideways, caught wind of the fact that I was completely shut down and did not want anybody to talk to me. I was so ashamed and so embarrassed and so desperate, so fearful. So she didn't talk to me the whole time. But you know what was incredible about this meeting? I didn't even know this when I found this meeting on, the AA website. It was a beginner's meeting. And what that meant is it was designed for people who didn't know anything about the 12-step program. I had no idea. So the topic that day was amazing. The topic was really simple. What happened? And after the topic was introduced, everybody went around the table and everybody shared what happened. What happened to them that finally got them into the rooms of AA? What happened to them that they finally said enough and decided to do something about their unmanageable lives? And as each person was sharing, what struck me is they're all just like me. Notice I didn't think to myself, I'm just like them. No, they're just like me. I look back on that and I think that's funny. It's like, wow, center of the universe. And, we have that when we're in our pain, and our trauma. And if that's manifesting as addiction, that does manifest as an incredibly self-centered victim kind of a place. But realization nonetheless made me feel seen, made me feel like there were people out there that understood me. Because for so long I had felt different. I'd felt outrageous. I'd felt like I couldn't find anybody who I could really relate to. I'd been pretty lonely a lot of my life without a lot of friends, a lot of connection or community. And even my family, I felt, would sort of roll their eyes at me and my, outrageousness. And to be fair, I was a hot fucking mess when I was younger. I was traumatized. I was desperate. I was flailing. I was defensive. It was hard to be an Ingrid, and it was hard to be around an Ingrid. And when I got to that room, I thought, oh, these are people that for some reason I can relate to them, even though all their stories were different than mine. There was a thread, a common thread that I related to in every single story. And I think that was really powerful for me, connecting to a community where it's like, okay, we're all fucked up here. At the end of the meeting, I think I was feeling a little bit more relaxed. Perhaps I'd let some walls down a little bit. And the woman next to me, she was maybe in her 60s, late 60s. She said a word or two to me, and I said a word or two back, and she just slipped this business card over to me, and she said, "You call me." And I said, "Okay." And I was like, I'm not going to call her. I don't want to talk to anybody. But I took her card and I went home later that night and I felt a lot better after that first AA meeting. I felt like, okay, I can do this. I think I can do this. And I'm turning this woman's card over in my hands and I don't know. I had no intention of calling her. And then a split second later, I was calling her. Like I just changed my mind. And I called her and she was so delightful. She was high energy and optimistic and at the same time, like clear and stern. And um, I ended up asking her to be my sponsor. And she was my sponsor for the entire time I was in AA. And she's the one that led me through the 12 steps. And she ushered me through my first experience of really doing introspection on myself. That first rung on the ladder of healing and self-actualization, she was there holding it with me. And I will forever be grateful to my beautiful Peggy. So I went through the 12 steps with Peggy and they were incredibly helpful to me. Like I said, it was the first time I really did real introspection. And so I don't knock 12-step programs. I think they're really useful. I also think for most people, or for a certain subset of people, they are incomplete, and they were for me. After going through the 12-step programs and being heavily involved in AA for a year, I was leading groups, I was speaking, I was kind of rising up in the AA world, but inside of me, there was this kind of festering, this like, something is churning. I need more, I need more, I need more. And I didn't know what it was, but it led me on a spiritual quest. And that led to a true spiritual awakening, the kind that blasts you open and you are never the same again. The kind of awakening that brought all of my intuitive and psychic gifts online, that connected me once and for all to divine source energy. And eventually through some bumpy times led me to ground into who I am today, to my work as a spiritual mentor, as a teacher for those ready to step into spiritual leadership. It is now not uncommon for me to work with people who have a history of addiction or who sometimes are in active addiction. That has ranged with everything from cigarettes to methamphetamines. One of my students who had been smoking cigarettes for many years, she tried all kinds of things. She's even tried 12 steps like Nicotine Anonymous or something. And she just could not kick the habit. After working with me with Soulmatic Renewal for maybe a year, like on the outskirts. And then she came in and worked more directly with me. It didn't take long for her to finally let go of cigarettes. And she told me, I cannot believe that I've been able to quit smoking. She said, this work, this Soulmatic Renewal work has been far more effective for me than a 12-step program. And she tried it and she'd done it. I had another client who was not using anything when he started working with me. And then he actually had a relapse during our time together. I was running one of our groups and he was so brave. He showed up at the group and he was off. His energy was off. Like he didn't seem okay. And I said, hey, how are you? One of the things that we really learn how to do in the Soulmatic Renewal, in the Soulmatic Mastermind, is learn how to trust our community and to be vulnerable with our community. And he was vulnerable. And he said, I relapsed on methamphetamines and I feel horrible. I can't believe I did it. I thought I was past it. And instead of meeting him with, oh no, how could you? We all met him with, hey, it's okay. That's okay. That's where you are today. Keep showing up. And he did keep showing up and he completed the program and he did not relapse again. And he has since gone on to join the Navy and completely turn his life around. He relocated. So he was no longer in the environment that was, creating some issues for him. And he's moving on and upward in the world and just doing beautifully, clean shaven and in his uniform. And I could not be more proud of him. And that's because he committed and he was willing to do the work and he was willing to show up completely vulnerable so that we, his community, could do our part to help him release that addiction once and for all. Addicts are super powerful people. People who have a very addictive personality, as they say, it's because they have an incredible wide opening to spirit. That wide opening to spirit, they're trying to fill that with God and they don't know how to fill it with God. So they fill it with anything they can get a hold of. Drugs, sex, alcohol, shopping, scrolling, right? It's this need for more from the universe. And once they recognize how to get that, how to access that, once they know how to do that, the addiction compulsion falls away. But often, as we have been in that compulsion for so many years, we get gummed up. We get full of shit. And that shit is what needs to be cleared out before we can be fully in line with our channel to divine source and full of divine light, and no longer trying to fill that void, what feels like a void, with whatever the hell we can get our hands on. And I think a lot of people who work with me on their addiction, they really struggle with AA and 12-step. And I think that there's two reasons for that. I think it's the disempowering language. I attract powerful people, and on some level they know that. So when the first step says I'm powerless, they're like, no, I'm not. I'm not powerless. I know I'm not powerless. And they're right. They're absolutely not powerless. And the second is the the steps can be feel very religious or Jesus-y to a lot of people. And while it's not, it is outdated language. And it's actually based on 12 spiritual principles that are universal, generally agreed upon by anybody. These steps themselves are sort of the delivery vehicle for those 12 principles within the 12-step program. And they say that one of the arguments against AA is like, oh, it has a really low success rate. And let me tell you why I think that is. I think that AA has a low success rate because, one, there's a lot of people forced to go to AA. You can be court ordered to go to AA. You can be pressured by friends. You can be pressured by family, your community. So people go to AA, but they don't really want to be there. And so they don't do that work. They don't really commit to going all in. And that's the second thing, is the level of commitment has to be really strong in order to recover from your addictive compulsions. And when people are ready to work with me, they are ready to do the work. I require a big commitment from people who are coming in to do work with me. And so that really speaks to my level of success with people, because I'm not doing court-ordered stuff. Nobody's coming to me because they're feeling pressured by their family. They're coming to me because they're ready for the transformation. And that is what I deliver. But I can't deliver that transformation with you until you're fully on board with it, until you make that commitment. So I did 12-step, and now I do soulmatic renewal work. I've been sober for over a decade. I've helped plenty of people recover from their addictions, or recover more deeply and completely from their past addictions. You've maybe heard the term dry drunk, which is an AA term, which means, yeah, they're not drinking, but they're still an asshole. Or yeah, they're not drinking, but they're still making very poor decisions. This is what I help people with. So as I was reflecting on why did the 12 steps work for me, and then why did I outgrow those 12 steps? What am I doing that is the same or similar as a 12-step program? And what am I doing that's different in my soulmatic renewal work that is giving me these great results, that is giving my clients these great results? And as I looked more deeply into the 12 steps and the 12 spiritual principles, I went, that's it. It's the principles. While the 12 steps are a delivery mechanism for these spiritual principles, things like honesty and love and commitment, my soulmatic renewal work has a different delivery vehicle, which is more resonant than maybe the 12-step program. The other thing is I do somatic work. It's not in the head. So this is why for my clients, typically talk therapy doesn't really work for them. And the 12 steps might not work for them because it's very much a head-based, it's a mental-based solution. That might work for some people. That might work for a lot of people. There are people who talk therapy works for and they do great and the 12 steps work for, but there are people who who are very sensitive, have a lot of trauma, deal with a lot of conditioning from their family or their culture. They're very sensitive. And so they build up more gunk at the cellular level, in the body level. And so they need a somatic experience in order to dislodge the stuck energy in their body to be free from the mental prison that is keeping them in their compulsive behavior. And that's what soulmatic renewal does. Soulmatic renewal takes the stuck energy in the body, right? The old traumas, the old fears, the things that we have not allowed ourselves to experience. And we get to go in and let ourselves have it and release it. And then you've got that opening to spirit, and then you're clear. And then you can make meaningful change in your life. But we can't have a new experience when we have not let ourselves have the old experience. We're here for the whole spectrum of the human experience, good, the bad, and the ugly. And when we don't know how to feel our fucking feelings related to whatever experience is in front of us, guess what? That doesn't go away until we bring presence back to that experience. And then it releases very quickly. And then we can be open to a new experience. Until then, we're going to be stuck in trauma cycles. We're going to be stuck in unhelpful patterns. And we're going to be stuck in reactivity and triggery nonsense. And I want better than that for you. And when we're stuck in those cycles, addiction is almost a guaranteed byproduct for those with that particular flavor of coping mechanism. Let's stop that cycle in its tracks. I'm going to explain to you exactly how I do that. We're going to go through the 12 spiritual principles as listed in AA, but like I said, are universal. They're just universal spiritual and moral principles that everybody agrees upon. We're going to look at the AA step associated with that principle as the delivery vehicle, and then I'm going to tell you what I do differently, how we do this in Soulmatic Renewal, and how that creates lasting change. Let's begin. The first of these 12 principles is honesty. And in a 12-step program, the first step is we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. And like I said before, that word powerless in that first step is a serious turnoff to people who are deeply powerful, who have that innate empowerment inside them. And frankly, I think that's basically every addict. Here's how I deliver that principle. You can't change anything until you accept it. When we are fighting against what is, we cannot see how there is another way through. What we resist persists. And when we are in our active addiction, when we are in that compulsive behavior, when you're trying to control it, or you're trying to deny it, or you're trying to justify it, all of that is resistance energy. And when you're balled up in resistance, all you can see is the fight. All you can see is the resistance. When you let go and accept what is, which is, holy crap, my life is a mess. I can't seem to stop doing this. I keep doing this no matter what I try, how much I muscle through, or how much I try to control it. What's going on here? It's not powerless, it's acceptance. I am in acceptance of where my life is right now. I'm no longer fighting the fact that shit is in shambles, letting it be what it is. Second principle is hope. The step associated with hope is came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. This is where I go, we have to get out of the story. The story is the mental understanding of what's happening. It's hanging on to the fact that we know best. We know what happened. We know what's happening. It can look, it's when you find yourself spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning in your head. My practice for this is to put the story on the shelf temporarily. Okay, we'll take it down again. But when you have realized what's happening, but you're telling yourself a story about it, oh my God, I'm such a piece of crap. I'm such a this, a da, 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 I can't believe da, da. What? That's not helpful. That's mental shenanigans that are keeping you stuck in ego. And the thing to do is disconnect that for the time being. So we disconnect it and we put it on the shelf. The next principle is faith. And the step associated with faith is we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. This is really about surrender. Now, surrender is not acquiescence. Surrender is not rolling over. Surrender is not giving up. Surrender is the merging of your will with divine will. Again, when we are fighting what is, we are not allowing divine source energy, the universe, to show up and to assist us on our journey. This is about surrendering to what is so that we can open up space for that guidance, for that help to come to us. And that help can come from source. It can come from a mentor. It can come from community. It can come from all kinds of places. Next principle is courage. And the step associated with courage is made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. This is about feeling your fucking feelings. I don't get into right or wrong, good or bad. This is about your experience. And when we disconnect the story and we surrender and we go, okay, I'm ready, I'm willing. We disconnect the story and we go into the body. When you let yourself have your emotional experience, let yourself feel it. And this is really scary. This does take a lot of courage because there can be a lot of guilt in there. There can be a lot of shame in there. And nobody likes to feel those feelings. And those are really common with addiction, is the guilt and the shame. But once you let yourself have it and feel that guilt and feel that shame and whatever else is hanging out in there, that's when you're free of it because you've let yourself have the experience. And then it can remove itself from your body. The next principle is integrity. And the step associated with this is admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. And this is about don't take it personally. And this is about being in community. This is about sharing our experience deeply in community. And this is going back to my client who showed up at a group after having relapsed the day before. This is exactly what he was doing. This is what I did. This is what happened. And here I am. And he showed up vulnerable, and we got to help him realize, like, hey, it's okay. We all got bullshit. We all have spirals. We all fall off the wagon. It's about showing up, showing up, showing up. The next principle is willingness. And the step associated with willingness is we're ready to have God remove all of these defects of character. This is about letting go of your identity around your pain and your trauma and your addiction. This is a big one, especially for addicts, is victimization, feeling victimized. Now, in our Soulmatic Renewal work, we are dealing with trauma. We are going all the way in, but we're not going in so that we can form an identity and become trauma crusaders. No. We're going in with the intention to let it go, to move on and forward with our lives so that we no longer have to no longer have to carry the weight of that trauma or wear it like an armor, like we're something special because we're victimized. We're not. Everybody has trauma to some degree or another. There are levels and varying degrees of trauma. There absolutely are. But honestly, being traumatized and conditioned and feeling worthless and victimized, it doesn't make you special. And this is what this is about. Willingness to let go and to be a clean, clear, and healed human. The next principle is humility. And the step associated with this principle is humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. True humility is about being able to hold your mess and your divine God self all at the same time, all at once. It's realizing how very, very small and insignificant you are and how potent and powerful and incredible you are at the same time. And once we hit that place of humility, that's when we can truly let go of the identities that we've created around our pain and our victimization, and make meaningful, lasting change to our personality, to the core of our being, to become our authentic selves, letting go fully of all the bullshit on top of that is not ourselves. The next spiritual principle is love. And the step associated with this is made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. This is really about forgiveness, forgiving yourself and forgiving other people. I remember when I really did this for myself, I had a lot of guilt and shame come up around my son and how I had parented him. I was a young parent. I was damn near a teenage mom, not quite, but damn near. And, you know, that kid grew up with me. I dragged him through my 20s. His childhood was chaotic, and sometimes it was really hard for him. And I didn't have the maturity, the wherewithal. I didn't have it to really understand how some of my actions had impacted him. And he was really angry with me for a while, and rightfully so in many cases. And I remember being just riddled with guilt and shame about this and not knowing how I was going to make it better and feeling like I wanted to fix it and realizing I really couldn't fix it in that moment. And I said to myself, okay, I am committed to making that better, to cleaning up my mess as the doors open for me. As I'm able to, as the years go by, as the opportunity presents itself, I'm committed to cleaning up that mess. The next principle is discipline. And the step associated with this is made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Now, that commitment I made to my son definitely came calling. And there are several instances over the years now where I am able to say to him, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my part in that. I'm sorry I did that to you. And that has healed. Those little tiny instances, those little exchanges have healed so much. It doesn't take a big grand gesture. It takes humility. It takes all these principles coming together into a discipline in order to make real change now, not only in ourselves, but in our relationships and in the rest of our lives, in our choices and everything that we are doing. I remember the first time this instance happened after I'd really made that commitment. I was staying with he was an adult at this point, and I was staying with him in an Airbnb, and we were going to go out somewhere, and I said, hey, get your shoes. And he just spun out. He's, God, I hate it when you say that. He goes, it makes me think of like when I was 5 years old and you just yell at me to just get my shoes. And I was 5 years old and I couldn't find them. And I can't believe I was 5 years old. Why would you scream at me like that? And I had to take a pause, and I swallowed, and I said, "You're right. I'm sorry. I was incredibly ill-equipped at that point, and I'm sorry that I took that out on you, and you didn't deserve that." And he kind of looked at me. He shrugged, and he goes, "It turned out pretty good." It's like, "You really did, kid." That is the discipline of these spiritual principles. And this is how we do that in our soulmatic renewal practice. The next principle is patience. And the step associated with that is continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. This is about walking your walk. It is also being patient with yourself and knowing that you're gonna fuck up. You might have relapses, or you're gonna screw up in what your personal integrity is, what your personal code is. And all you have to do is make a correction in the moment. So it's the ability to make the correction in the moment and keep the needle moving forward. The next principle is perseverance. And the step associated with this is sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. This is what I say to my clients all the time. It's a practice. None of us are perfect. We continue to show up for our work, and we know that it's a practice. And we give ourselves grace, and we give others around us grace, while also holding ourselves to an incredibly high standard. And finally, the last principle is service. And the step associated with this is, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and practice the principle in all our affairs. And this is about stepping into spiritual leadership. And spiritual leadership can look a lot of different ways. It's unique for everybody. For me, this is my version of spiritual leadership, is showing up to be a mentor for others, to help them release the trauma and the stuck energy and let go of everything that is not them, so that they can step fully into their authenticity, into their power, to clear out all the shit that is keeping them in the way of their heart's desire, of their greatest lived experience. Because I know that everybody is of divine service through the vehicle of their passion. And when we're gummed up and we're in addictions or any unhelpful coping mechanisms, we don't know what the hell that is. And we certainly can't access it and bring it out to others and be of service to other people. Spiritual leadership is about following your heart and letting the divine spirit, the universe, however it is you define that wave of light, that source, that force of energy that we know carries us when we tap into what is true for us. Following your heart's desire, having the faith and the courage to do so. If you're ready for this level of transformation that I have achieved and that I brought hundreds of my clients through, whether battling with addiction or any other unhelpful patterns, defense mechanisms, self-sabotage, it doesn't matter how it's manifesting, what the expression of that pain is. If you're ready to be free from that pain, go get my Soulmatic Renewal Masterclass. It's $27. It's an hour and a half, and I take you through the details of Soulmatic Renewal, why it works, how to do it. And I even have a lesson where I'm pairing human design with Soulmatic Renewal. So you can take the energetic signature, the essence of who you are, understand it, and then use somatic renewal to clear out anything in the way of you expressing authentically and joyfully in your life. This is what I'm throwing all my weight around. I do a lot of different things as a spiritual mentor, but the soulmatic renewal practice is what I have seen change the most lives and have the greatest impact so far. And it is my vision that we end up with a generation of kids who are no longer carrying the ancestral trauma, who are able to have their experience, and they don't build up that bullshit that we have dealt with, that stuck emotion, that stuck energy. Won't that be incredible? And that starts with you and me. We are on the front lines of this healing revolution. So go get that masterclass. I love you.